And some frogs are returning, guys. We talk about species going away. Well, here, a species is returning, which is kind of interesting. And this is a species that got a shout out from one of my favorite authors, maybe yours too, Mark Twain. Mark Twain celebrated red-legged frogs staging a comeback in Yosemite Valley. Neat. Red-legged frogs made famous by Mark Twain are once again roaming around Yosemite Valley after a half-century absence. Ecologists this spring found clusters of eggs in meadows and ponds, proof of the first breeding by the frogs in Yosemite since 2017, when adult red-legged frogs were reintroduced after a 50-year absence, Yosemite National Park Superintendent Mike Reynolds said Monday. It's unusual to find eggs in any location, and to find them this soon is as strong of an indication that red-legged frogs are adapting successfully to the riparian areas where we reintroduced them. The California red-legged frog is named for its colorful legs and belly. It was featured in Twain's short story, The Celebrated Jumping Frog of Calaveras County. The frog disappeared from Yosemite in part because non-native predatory bullfrogs, first introduced to a reflection pond, spread throughout the valley and over time gobbled them up. The insatiable bullfrogs have been eradicated from the park. Why? Is it because of that? Why have they been eradicated from the park? I mean, I guess they brought them in. Did they decide to bring them back out? I don't know the answer to that. Clearing the way for the red-legged frog's return. The amphibians were reintroduced in Yosemite National Park under a partnership with federal and state agencies, the Yosemite Conservancy and the San Francisco Zoo and Gardens, where thousands of tadpoles and adult frogs are being bred for release in the park 200 miles, 230 kilometers away. You know, I was having a conversation about zoos with a friend of mine who is a very very dedicated vegan and animal activist. And admittedly, like I'm not, like I'm just being upfront here. I don't know a ton about zoos. Like I know that some are horrible, and I was always under the assumption that some are horrible, some are doing good. I don't know enough about the topic to speak as to whether or not that is the case or not. And I was asking her questions about it. I was like, so what's the deal? Like, are there some zoos that are like doing good things that actually are benefiting species? Is that happening? Is that not happening? If it is, where's it happening? If it's not, I know some zoos are terrible where these animals are like, it's absolutely horrible. I mean, you see those articles. They publish in like a study every year of the worst zoos in the world, and you see this stuff, and it might bring a tear to your eye, like it's brutal, but yeah, I'm not knowledgeable enough on the subject. I know that SeaWorld is atrocious. I know that. I remember even when I was a kid, like when I was a kid, I was brought to SeaWorld because that was back before a lot of the reports on SeaWorld had come out, so I think a lot of people just didn't know any better. My family all went to SeaWorld. And even as a kid, I was like, that doesn't look okay. That looks like a swimming pool I would swim around in. And that's a fucking whale. Like, even as a little kid, I was like, are they okay? Like, that seems bad. And, I don't know. The innocent eyes of a child were actually right in this regard. It is bad. SeaWorld's terrible. I know that. Like, I know SeaWorld's terrible. I know a lot of zoos are terrible. Are all zoos terrible? That I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, that's awesome. I just went on a tangent of, like, shit I don't really quite know about. So the program has reintroduced an estimated 4,000 California red-legged frog eggs and tadpoles and 500 zeros, man. They'll throw ya. Adult frogs, setting them free in the park's lush meadows. They're also in the Alpine Lakes and the winding Merced River. This is making me want to just go on a hike, and it's raining where I'm at today. So they're 2 to 5 inches long, and the red-legged frogs are the largest native frogs in the West and once were found throughout California. Efforts are underway to restore the species in other areas. Okay. So I guess it's a good thing when you kind of reintroduce species, especially when we're losing them. There's a picture of the frog. That is one cool-looking frog. And I don't know why, I'm not clear on why the other frogs were eradicated. I don't know if it was because they were eating those frogs and they were like, the red-legged frogs are cool. The red-legged frogs got a Mark Twain bump. The other bullfrogs, not so much. So bullfrogs, you got to go. Red-legged frogs, you're back in. Twain he really stood the test of time. He's written some really cool shit. I actually just read a Mark Twain quote book a couple months ago. I wanted a nice little road companion book. It was when we were doing our run in Florida in January. So I read a Mark Twain quote book. And you know what? One of my favorite Mark Twain quotes as of recent is, especially with everything going on in our society, if loyalty to a party is patriotism, then I am not a patriot. I am loyal to no party. I am loyal to people and ideas. That last part I added, but the quote's longer than that. But the gist of the quote, if loyalty to a political party is the measure of a patriot, then I am no patriot. It's Mark Twain. Mark Twain said that. He knew that back then. Still applicable today. All right, so the red-legged frogs are back. Bullfrogs, outie. There you go. There's some frog news. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your